excuse me, would you like to dance with me? Yeah, to this. It's really, really good. Plus, it helps keep Jason away. I'm just joking. Jason's dead. Some girl put an axe in his head. He ain't coming back. Welcome back to my channel. Hope everyone's doing well out there. And today is Jason's unlucky day. That's right. We're going to talk about Friday the 13th Part 4, the final chapter, which is funny now because they made many films after this one. But at the time, Joseph Zito, the director of this film, was made to believe by Paramount this was going to be the final chapter. And Joseph Zito was coming off of a little slasher film called The Prowler in '81. If you've never seen that one, check it out. It's a pretty good, solid slasher film. It's well shot and has some great gore effects by the great Tom Savini, who does the effects in this film. As we all know, Tom Savini did the effects in the original Friday the 13th. He turned down Part 2, wasn't asked to come back on Part 3. But with Joseph Zito working with Tom Savini in The Prowler, he brought him in to do this one, which I know Tom Savini says in many interviews it was only right, since he created Jason, to be the one to kill Jason. And there was many ways they were planning on killing him off, but they chose the one. We're going to talk about that once we get towards the end of the film. Now, as I said, this was supposed to be the final chapter, and they gave Joseph Zito a $2.6 million budget, and upon release on April 13th of 1984, it made $32.9 and was a huge hit for Paramount Pictures. And that could be why less than a year later we had Friday the 13th Part 5, The New Beginning, which we'll be talking about next week. Now in this film we have Corey Feldman as Tommy Jarvis. Tommy Jarvis is the one character besides Jason that shows up in more than one film. He's in 3 films, 4, 5, and 6. Although played by different actors each time, although Corey Feldman does reprise the role briefly in Part 5. Crispin Glover is Jimmy, our love-struck, down on his luck dude who just wants to get laid. And Ted White plays Jason in this film, and I'm going to say this up front, Ted White is one of my favorite Jason portrayals out of the whole series. I love his portrayal as Jason. I'm not saying it's my favorite, because I love Derek Mears' portrayal in the remake, but he's definitely up there, top 3 for me. I think Ted White's fantastic in this film as Jason Voorhees. And this film's rated R like they all are, and it was an hour and 31 minutes long. This film opens up just like the second or the third one did, right at the end. Shows us a recap of Part 3, and we pick up with Jason still lying in the barn. There's a helicopter overhead with a spotlight shining down. We see the coroner or the police officers cover Jason's body with a white blanket, and then we see this ambulance come in, collect Jason's body, and he goes off to the morgue, and we see the cops clean up their part of it, and they take off, and we're at the hospital with Axel and the nurse that he would like to have sex with. And the guy who plays Axel in this film, I don't know the actor's name, but he played Fackler in a police academy, and he played the Jewish rabbi in Seinfeld. He was on many episodes of Seinfeld, and he was in Police Academy 1 and at least in 1 or other 2 ones of those. And not too long after we get to the hospital, Jason wakes up and viciously kills Axel and our nurse, and he's on his way back to Crystal Lake, baby. And we're introduced to the Jarvis family. Tommy, his mother, and Trish, his sister. And his mom just went through a divorce not too long ago, as we find out pretty quickly. And Tommy likes to make latex masks, and he's very handy, kind of like a MacGyverish kind of kid. Then we're introduced to our new group of kids that are coming to spend time at Camp Crystal Lake. Jimmy and his friends in this station wagon. And we get to know the kids a little bit. I will say this, in this one, they do give us a little bit, they try to make the kids more real. I will give them that. And even Joseph Zito in the interview on some of the documentaries have said, he tried to make the kids as real as he could. But he knows he has to get on with the killing, which it doesn't take that long to get back into the killing. We get this hitchhiker that gets killed viciously by Jason, and then it doesn't take long for Jason to get back to Camp Crystal Lake and start killing off our new group of teens. And the Jarvis family, although we don't see the mother get killed as the film goes along. But as the film goes along, we find this guy who shows up, and he's looking for Jason because his sister disappeared. Although the timelines don't add up, because his sister was the one girl from the second film that got killed with the double impalement. But the timeline in these never made sense, because technically this film would have took place on a Sunday if you went in chronological order. So you gotta forgive any of the timeline shit. It never mattered. So if you think about it too hard, you're just gonna make your brain hurt because it doesn't make sense. But that's okay because it's still a fun time at the movies. And I gotta say, I think the kills in this film are way better than anything in part 2 and 3. And you can tell Tom Savini's back. Tom Savini's a very creative force when it comes, especially in those days when it came to creating the kills, what they were going to do. He had a major say in those things because he was the one pulling them off. And Joseph Zito lights the film nicely. It's well shot. Jason gets to do some cool things. Jason runs in this film, which is also, Ted White gives it that little punch with Jason running. And as the film goes on, if you're a fan of the series, you've seen this one many times. I've probably seen this one more than any other film in this series. Jason kills all the kids in gruesome ways, in some pretty cool ways. Crispin Glover's death scene's pretty cool, with the corkscrew through the hand and the meat cleaver to the face. And that the one guy gets his head crushed in the shower. There's some really cool gore effects in this film, although they were all cut back because the MPAA demanded cuts, as they were after this series. But this film is still pretty damn gory. And then we get our final confrontation between Trish, Tommy Jarvis, and Jason in the cabin, and we get Tommy shaving his head to look like Jason to trick him, and then we get that awesome scene where Tommy buries the machete in Jason's head, and he drops to his knees, and you see his head sliding down the machete in glorious fashion, and Tommy going apeshit with the machete, yelling "die" as he hits him in the back with the machete. And then we get that last shot with Tommy staring into the camera, and cut. That's the end of Jason Voorhees until less than a year later when part 5 came out, which we'll talk about next week, like I said. This film is a really good slasher film. Does it make a lot of sense at some points? No. There's a lot of, you can nitpick the shit out of this film, no doubt, like most of these films. But if you're along for the ride, I would say this is the darkest one of them all, and the most brutal one of them all. Until you get to Jason Goes to Hell, the unrated version. That one's pretty damn brutal as well. But for the first 4, this is definitely the darkest and the most brutal. Jason's definitely unleashed here. He just does not give a, you know what, he just kills these kids in gruesome, horrific ways. And it makes for a really good, fun Friday the 13th film. It's well shot by Joseph Zito, like I said again. The makeup effects by Tom Savini look spectacular, especially Jason's death, as you would expect from Tom Savini. The acting's pretty good. I mean, you got Crispin Glover being Crispin Glover. He's awesome. Corey Feldman's good. I mean, this is around the time he was becoming really big. You know, the Goonies, he was doing after this. Gremlins in '84 he had as well, besides this film. I think they came out, Gremlins came out like 2 months after this. And then he went on to do The Lost Boys, yada yada, The Burbs, License to Drive. I mean, Corey Feldman blew up. The Coreys both were big in the 80s and early 90s. Corey Feldman's very likable here as Tommy Jarvis. His sister Trish is really, the actress that plays her, as good as the loving sister. This is my favorite Friday the 13th film. I'm going to put my cards on the table. I think this is the best constructed one. I do like the remake a lot. I know that gets a lot of shit, but this is my favorite Friday the 13th film. I think overall it's really well done slasher film from the 80s. And for a little trivia, the song, when Crispin Glover does his dance, the song he was actually dancing to on set was actually AC/DC's Back in Black. But they couldn't use that song, and they didn't have enough money in the budget to pay for it. Write that song, so they used the line instead. But that's what he actually danced to on set, and he made that dance up on the fly. That was all Crispin Glover's idea. Other than that, I don't think I have any other trivia on this one. I think, if you watch Crystal Lake Memories, it gives you all the information you ever want. So yeah, I would give Friday the 13th Part 4, the final chapter, an 8.75 out of 10. This is definitely my favorite of the franchise, although there's some other ones I really, really like as well as we go through the franchise. But yes, 8.75 out of 10 for Friday the 13th Part 4, the final chapter. What are your thoughts on the 4th film in the Friday franchise? Leave a comment down below, let me know. Hit the thumbs up, hit the subscribe button, share this video, I really would appreciate that. I hope you all have a kick-ass weekend. I'll be back next week with Friday 5 review and some other little tidbits, some other reviews and whatnot, whatever comes up. Until then, I hope you're all doing well out there, and bye.